All financial support for this podcast comes from my patrons on patreon.com. If you'd like to join in with the patrons, please check out patreon.com/DarwinGrosse. That's DarwinGrosse. Now enjoy the podcast. Okay, today I get a chance to talk to somebody that's new to me, but whose work I'm finding really exciting. I've gotten a chance to do a little bit of review of the work, and I'll be sharing it with you as well. His name's Alex Braga, and he's working on a project that he calls augmented, which is kind of a real-time and accompaniment software. Or maybe co-composer software. It uses AI in depth, and it kind of, I've watched some of the videos of him working with it. It looks like it kind of builds in conjunction with your work with all the tools that we're comfortable working with. So I'm really excited to learn more about this project. So with no further ado, let's talk to Alex. Hey, Alex, how's it going?
I'm going great. Thank you for having me, and thank you for showing interest in my work, because I always get very excited when I can talk about the work I'm doing. So here we are.
Sure, here we are. Well, I can imagine there's some excitement, if for no other reason than, my God, the work you're doing is pretty significant. I mean, you are... In a way, you're kind of embracing a lot of modern stuff. So you're embracing electronic music, you're embracing AI technology and kind of real-time work, live performance work, all this kind of stuff. You're wedging it all together into this augmented system. And I think it's pretty spectacular from a surface look at it. Why don't you tell me a little bit about how you think of it, and what does it what are the kind of basic building blocks that make the augmented system?
Yes, of course. I'm very pleased to do it. I just released an EP that it's called Spleen Machine with K7. I must say 7K, which is the sub-label of more edgy music of K7. And this EP is it's kind of a very important document about my research on this new instrument. I call it an instrument that it's called augmented, because my work and research on AI brought me to face a new way for me of composing music and achieving multimedia art. augmented, in a short synopsis, is an AI that enables the artist to reach an augmented self state, because it's not a composing tool, as you were saying. It's not an accompaniment tool. It's a tool to enhance yourself, to enhance your capabilities, and to enhance your creativity in real time. That's what makes it really, really, really exciting. And that's why we called it a mint, because it's like, it's like dropping a mint and swallowing a whole new world of the possibilities that can open to you. But it's also artificial music intelligence, because let's not hide behind a finger. Everything moves from artificial intelligence. All my philosophical premises of my work are based on all the debate on artificial intelligence. I'm a nerdy guy, as you must by now have guessed. And I've always worked with technology, and technology has always enabled me to reach a higher state of capabilities and of possibilities and territories that I couldn't have never reached before. So maybe we speak later about the background, but this is what it's all about for me. augmented is just this amazing new instrument that as you play, it lets you explore in real time all your different augmented self that could do other choices and other options on what you're playing. And the beauty of it is that it does it in real time. It does it with absolutely no pre-feeding or pre-learning. So it's completely pure. It's completely free of any kind of constraints. which most AI self-composing tool use. And
Right.
so I must say it has worked really beautifully for me and for the people that I've worked with me, like Robert Lippock and Francesco Donadello, which are the two masters of my EP. Amint enabled us to reach this kind of augmented sound. That's why I call it augmented music, because actually it is augmented music, because I start playing from a very simple uh, tune, a very simple, pure phrase, and Amint lets me augment this up to an infinite complexity. It's just up to me to choose the level of complexity of sound arrays and arrangement that I want to reach in that very moment.
Right, right on. Well, one of the things that right off the bat seems kind of difficult is actually even naming it, right? Because it does seem in the world of music and music technology, there are so many things that have tried to be automatic music helpers, right? There have been
Yeah.
automatic arrangers that, have, are just like very simplistic chord generators. There are other things that attempt to use patterns and pattern recognition and some of that kind of stuff. But it's none of these things, or so many of the names that you might be able to use have already been kind of co-opted and kind of used for something else. Although this idea of augmented work is really kind of interesting. Now, when I watched some of your video, one of the things I'm really curious about here is you said that this works without preceding. And I'm
Yep.
wondering how that actually works, because there were things I saw in your performance videos where it's sort of like active right from the very first note. And so
Yes, actually, it takes 100 notes, because that's what we designed the code to listen to the first 100 notes and then start to augment your style. But actually, what happens is that from note 101, it keeps training on yourself. So it never leaves the pace. So
okay.
if you stop, she stops. If you accelerate, she accelerates. If you change suddenly the pitch, the scale, the harmony, it suddenly changes with you, creating very amazing clusters. It's like having not even a second skin, because it's like a huge armor on yourself that can help you go out on stage or sit down in the studio or just sit with yourself and just flow and explore literally worlds in a second, in a split real time second. You were talking about automatic music generators and automatic pattern generators. I am really against that kind of approach nowadays, because I find it really out of context. With all due respect, I mean,
No, I agree.
the
Yeah.
the problem is that I was looking for something and for an instrument that was able to augment yourself, not to
Uh-huh.
create a standard that it's going to work the same for me and the same for you. Like, all the AIs that are pre-fed with 10,000 hours of Mozart, if I use it, I will end up with the same piece of shit that you will end up if you use it.
Right.
And
Right.
that is what kills art, what kills technology, and what kills the debate about human beings and technology, and the bond that I see between these two elements. I am a digital humanist. I am part of this brand new movement. I'm actually one of the few of a new digital humanism in music, using technology and specifically artificial intelligence in this specific way, strictly going against the other approach, because the other approach, it's not an holistic approach, and it cannot be interesting for nothing. It's a sterile exercise that will eventually end up scaring society about the use of technology. And
Right.
we'll go deeper into the philosophical things later when we are done with the nerdy stuff, because it's a pleasure to speak with you, because I feel that we can go deep into all the knobs, and
Yes,
so
exactly.
I'm getting
Right.
excited.
Yeah. Well, this is great because again, I love my audience because they will follow me to every nerdy corner that I can run into.
That's
So
beautiful.
I really enjoy it, and I really want to dive into this more because it is pretty fascinating to me. And you're right, we need to learn more. The other thing, though, I want to bring up is that at least the implication in the literature I read is that not only does this provide sort of like augmentation in music generation, but you also have a way to pipe that information into creating visual work as well, right?
Yes, yes. I'm a musician. I've studied music when I was a kid, and so that's my background. But I can't see nowadays a show that is not a multimedia show. To
Right.
me, every time I jump on stage, I am worried about setting up an entire show. And to me, a show is a 360 degrees show that
Hmm.
implies music, feelings, and images all bond together. And the beauty of Mint is that we've found a way to also to pipe this information into another AI that it's taking the MIDI signals created by Mint, and it's creating beautiful images with it. And I must say that's the part that we are developing more and more, because it's the heavier part in terms of codes, in terms of research, in terms of money to be spent
Yeah.
in doing research. But and when I say we, I need to, and I want to credit the two geniuses that did the big part of the work, because I work with two professors of the University of Roma Tre, Professor Riganti and Professor Laudani. And I created a team with them, and ever since we're doing beautiful stuff, and I'm very blessed to be able to work with such geniuses.
That's really cool. It's really great to have that kind of support to be able to work off of and build with. Yeah.
But I'm not a coder, so I am an artist. So my very specific vertical skill is to have visions, and I need to translate these visions into something. Otherwise, you end up being a loony or a visionary that doesn't apply. I know. I mean, yeah, that's the risk, you know. If you got a lot of stuff in your head or in your soul or in your heart, and you can't dig it out, you end up with a lot of frustration first,
Yes. Yeah.
and then nobody listens to you, because it's just visions that
Right.
cannot imply
Yeah.
nothing
People
with
want to see a
reality.
practical application of it. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, there's somebody that says that language is one of the greatest misleading thing of our society, and I sometimes agree. It's very hard to explain with our language that is really limited whatever you have in your heart,
Right.
whatever you have in your mind. So having the tools to put it out in such a complete way in terms of music and images makes it way easier to express yourself, or at least it works for me.
Right. Sure. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. So I'm kind of curious. You've dropped a lot of kind of interesting concept bombs in our conversation already. Your interest in AI, your work as an artist, and again, when I did a little research on you, I saw that you have quite a background in music creation and music production. I'm curious how you got to be where you are today. I mean, what
Luck.
well, yeah. But also, I mean, and you mentioned before when we were getting ready about having a long history in radio and stuff like that. I'm curious about your background. First of all, how you got into music and audio and that kind of stuff. Was it what in your youth brought you there, right?
Yes,
And then
that's very funny.
And then what are the things that, as you got older, I always find that people often will have kind of similar stories in their youth, but then there'll be like some avenue that they take when they're older that all of a sudden drives them into like loving Xenakis or loving dance music or loving something else. And I'm curious, what are the things that drove you into loving AI and the concepts of that, but also loving dance music production, and what are the things that took you down those avenues?
You know what? I've always been pretty focused, I must say, even when I was a little kid. And what I wanted really badly when I was 10, 11, or 12 was a personal computer. I was born in 1976, so by 1986, 1987, the personal computer was the big thing to have. And my parents were not very geeky or contemporary parents, so
Right.
we didn't even have a VCR at home.
Okay.
So imagine me asking my parents to buy me a Commodore computer. They said, hell no, what are you going to do with that? You're going to go crazy playing video games, and you're going to become, a nerd, which I proudly became. And so that genius of my mom told me, well, okay, let's cut a deal, because I see you want the computer so badly, but I want to do something good for yourself. You do this. You learn to play a musical instrument, and you learn to play it well. And when you're done with that, I will buy you a computer. So I said, okay, fuck, what's the easiest instrument to ever? I picked guitar. Give me a guitar, and I started going very deeply into that. I signed up at the conservatory. I studied 2 years of classical guitar, and I fell in love with music, and I fell in love with the instrument. And then my mom said, yeah, we had a deal. You did it. You showed very intense behavior, and so I'm gonna buy you a computer. And I didn't want to drop music, so I started mixing the two things, and I started getting into technology. And when I was living, after a few years, I went to live with my friends to do study in college, and all my friends had their own computer, and they were playing Minefield and stuff like that, and I would all the video games or cards and stuff like that, and I
Right.
would spend all my nights. It was the time of Cubase, I think the first releases of Cubase, I
Right.
guess,
Sure.
back then. And so I was just playing my guitar and staying there with the computer, doing all the experiments, recording and stuff like that. And then I was very lucky. I went to the United States when I was 17, because I asked my family to send me there to do an exchange student year. So I went there to live with a family, and that completely changed my perspective in terms of opening my mind. And American schools are really good, at least in giving a musical education. So I could go there, and since compared to our European system, the American school system is really, really super easy. So I would go there, and I would have all A's in every class without studying. So I could take jazz band, I could take guitar class, I could just play my guitar basically every day, all day. And that was the really big glue to my bond with music, and
Sure.
technology.
Right.
Um, and then I just started to get deeper into that. When I got back from the States, I got a call from the local MTV, which was called Video Music, in Italy, because they were looking for someone very good with music and English,
Oh,
that could
okay.
do interviews with bands. And to me, it sounded like a dream. I was 19, so I said,
Yeah.
"Okay, I'm coming." And they took me right away. So all of a sudden, I became like a VJ, writing my own shows and hosting my own shows. And it was the easiest way for me to make a living with music, because becoming a professional musician seemed too far away from my reach.
Right.
And that was that was very, very appealing at the moment. And then I fell into it, and I bumped into the radio. I fell in love with the radio as well, and I stayed 18 years in the radio. And that's why probably I have this very deep bond with multimedia show, because I've done a lot of video. I worked a lot with video. I've done a lot of television, which is shit. I mean, there's nothing in TV that it's art, but it teaches you how to present yourself in a way that you can get the best out of the experience. And so that was really, really intense as a school for me. And I always kept playing through all my years in radio and TV, but I didn't want to take the risk to leave it all and be a professional musician. But then the things started getting really well also in music and in conceptual art. I started doing performances, and some of these performances ended up in museums. There was one that was very, very important for me, because I wrote a sonata for cello and my car. And my car is an old Fiat 500, a yellow 1973 Fiat 500. and this sonata ended up in the Museum of Contemporary and Modern Art in Italy. So it was super beautiful for me. And I said to myself, well, you know what? Maybe I should leave this shitty world of TV, and that it's really, really not what I want in life. I am a musician. When you're born a musician and you're born a nerd, there's nothing like being on stage, tweaking your things and playing your music, And so here I am. And then I was blessed to arrive in Berlin and meet K7, and it is my family now. And Horst Weidemüller, which is the boss, he kind of fell in love for all the things I do. And I met Carlo Garred, the A&R at 7K, which is the one that built up the whole project of Spleen Machine, that put me in contact with Robert Lippock, with Francesco Donadello. So a lot of luck, a lot of karma, things that when you do things, then things go in a chain and kind of lead you.
Yeah, I always think of that as like the guiding hand. All of a sudden you can feel yourself being kind of like swept in a direction, and it's beautiful when you find yourself in a position to be able to go with that. That's really quite a story, and it's kind of interesting that you had these kind of like trip points that really generated a lot of like focused activity, right? So when you got a chance, your mom puts you in this position and says, hey, learn an instrument well and we'll get a computer. I mean, that kind of trains you into like having a focus point. You come to the US as an exchange student and you find that the way that the educational system is, it gives you a chance to focus on some performance with the guitar. You come back and you have the opportunity to start, to do this radio work and to do these interviews. And all of a sudden, again, it's a focus on kind of learning about the world of media and interacting in the world of media. It seems like circumstances have often put you in a really interesting place.
Yes, I'm a clever monkey, you could say.
Okay. Well, I won't say that, but if you want to, that's cool. But what I'm wondering is, what is the set of circumstances that put you on the trail of artificial intelligence that ended up basically saying, okay, I'm a musician, I have these skills, I like playing, I like working, I like writing, I like doing composition work, but I want to fulfill myself more by utilizing artificial intelligence. What is it that drove you in that direction?
Well, it was a very clever monkish thing at first, because I was looking for a new performance. Performances, to me, needs to speak about the future and the vision of the future, starting from a contemporary debate. Otherwise, nobody will give a shit.
Right.
So, and my field of research is that. music, art, and concepts and technology and sustainability. So I always dig in that deep waters. I always swim in it, and I bumped into a lot of articles about artificial intelligence and how bad artificial intelligence was perceived by a lot of important influencers, important journalists that were, to me, misleading completely the audience by saying that artificial intelligence would have led humanity into slavery by 2033. This was the article that really pissed me off. There was a journalist, I don't remember his name, but it was giving the specific year. By 2033, we'll be enslaved to artificial intelligence. And I said, what the fuck? A bit of optimism in life doesn't.
Let's have some of that. Right.
My God. So I said, no. To me, this is not the point, and I need to find a way to demonstrate this on stage, because I want to make a statement. And my statement was, not only this is a misleading argument, but probably the only way to reach a sustainable future is that if we as humans start to embrace technology in a good way, full of mindfulness, and we take artificial intelligence and we use it to lead us into a sustainable future. So how do I do this? I don't know. I think. And I said, okay, what if I can code an artificial intelligence that can decode my style in real time and augment myself and helps me produce in real time a kind of art that it's never been seen, a kind of music that it's never been heard, a kind of sound that it's new. I've always played a lot of electronic music, and I always felt in a big, huge, and locked golden cage, because electronic music forces you to work with grids, with BPMs, with patterns, with stems, with tracks.
Right.
Not to talk about DJs, because they play tracks. So there's what can you do in terms of performance? You just select your music.
You're handcuffed. Yeah. Right.
Yes, you're completely handcuffed. And coming from a very physical background, the guitar is a very physical instrument. I've always felt really frustrated with this. And then I said to myself, if I can take this code and turn it into an instrument that can free me from this cage and can put me on stage completely free to do whatever the fuck I want, and this thing follows me and enhances me and augments what I'm doing and gives me a super lashy, beautiful, infinite array of arrangements as I play, and visuals as well. I think it's a pretty good statement that if we use technology in a good way, technology is not killing humanity. Technology is not killing art and artists, but technology can lead us somewhere else, which for me is the future. That is why I will fight every drop of my sweat against the projects of technology and art that tends to substitute the artist and make the artificial intelligence compose instead of the artist, because that is the real bullshit. That is the real misleading argument that can be taken by factious journalists and turn it into an argument of saying, okay, if even art is being defeated by technology, so you, humanity, are completely fucked, because society sees the artists as the last avant-garde and avant-post of what means to use your soul, to use your heart, and to use your creativity and your connection with a metaphysical world.
Right.
If we show them that this can be trashed by a machine, we are showing them that we are fucked. Except, you know what? We are not, because a machine can never, ever, ever compose nothing. It can imitate in a very beautiful way, but it will never, never know why I write a C and then an E flat, and then a G, and that 3 notes in a row to me means fear for death, joy, love, a night of sex, sweat, loss, or the infinite sight of a landscape. A machine knows nothing about this, nothing about the meaning of life. And creation, in terms of creating art, is putting yourself and putting your meaning, the meaning of your life, inside these 3 notes. And if you write these 3 notes, it will mean a whole world. If a machine writes these 3 notes, it means nothing. That's why a machine that composes a la Mozart can produce a perfectly arranged harmony that means shit, because Mozart spent his whole life. He fucking died writing these 3 notes.
Right.
A machine will never die. A machine will never have fear of nothing, will never feel joy. So we need to be the center. And that's why I built Aimint strongly around this concept. And that's why I fight every day for this concept, because I think this is the truth, and the other way around is misleading people. And we already live in a pretty fucked up times at the moment, so we don't need no more bullshit going around.
Right. Well, this is really interesting, though, because you do point out that one of the things that just cannot be captured by machine learning or artificial intelligence is the experience that leads us to do what we do. Right? That's irreducible. We cannot basically say, well, all of our whole lifespan of experience, that can be boiled down to 42 bits or something, right?
You are focused on the exact point. It's when Duchamp did La Fontaine, which is
right. A urinal, right?
A urinal. That's a super beautiful, mind-blowing key milestone of contemporary art. But it's a fucking urinal. People use it. If you don't put the meaning, put the meaning, it's something that you pee in it.
Right.
If you put the meaning of the whole life of Duchamp, it becomes the masterpiece of contemporary art.
Right.
And a machine will always see that thing as a urinal.
Right. Yeah.
There is no other way around.
So with Aimint, then, how do you make it so that you've built a system? So you're actually, to me, you're kind of treading a very fine line. So some people like building technology systems that are almost like training wheels on a bicycle, right? They'll build up technologies that make it so that they can't fall too far on one side, or they can't fall, when they perform, they can make a nice performance, right? Other people focus on artificial intelligence in music, where it is attempts to compose things. And boy, nothing gives me a headache more than listening to some of the artificial intelligence compositions that have been done. It's been pretty rough, right?
I've already expressed myself on that.
So, but you're like finding a place in the middle. You're not just building yourself safety bumpers, and you're not building a composition system. You're building this augmented mechanism. What are the things that represent success in that realm? What is it that this thing, how is it that it can augment you that's satisfying for you, and it still gives you the opportunity to be expressive and human?
It's like drugs, psychedelic drugs. Sometimes you have a bad trip, and sometimes you have a good trip.
Right.
You have to, and there's been a lot of research from a lot of scientific people on why this happens. Is that you have, when you take some kind of some kind of trip, you have to be prepared. You have to be in peace with yourself. You have to be very self-conscious. You have to use your life with mindfulness. and so you will have the chance to augment yourself and your perception. All the rest of the drug abuse is going to lead you down to a deep cave where nothing good comes out.
Right.
So, excuse me for the brutal metaphor,
No, that's
but
fine. I understood.
But it's exactly the same. How do you measure the success of a bond with you and Amint? Well, you sit down behind your piano and you start playing, and you see what happens. If what comes out gives you your emotion plus infinite, and you feel a huge void that comes up and fills yourself, it means that you're doing good things.
Right.
If nothing comes out, it means that you're not doing things. It's a lot of like composing. I mean, everybody that has experienced composing few lines of a thing, how do you measure success? Well, if you're a pop artist, you measure success if you sell records or not, if people stops you in the street to snap a selfie or not. If you do the kind of music that we like, the measurement is that you are making something remarkable. First, that it's remarkable for yourself.
It's fulfilling for yourself, right?
And makes you feel good.
Mm-hmm.
And with Amint, it makes you feel good plus good, and good.
Right.
You time it with all the brains that you have with Amint. So that's how I measure my level of satisfying. There is a very bizarre thing that happened to me. When I came out with Amint is the software also. So there's software houses that produce musical software, and they were very, very interested in Amint. And so with one specific software house, we did a lot of meetings and tests and showcases and stuff like that. And the last diagnosis was it's super cool, it's super futuristic, but people want simple things. Mm-hmm. So people want to press one button and want the things to go the safe way, exactly what you were saying. I'm going in the exact opposite direction, because otherwise they would have built the pianoforte with just 3 keys and not 88. Yeah. So Amint, to me, it's a very powerful tool, and we started teaching it. It's the first artificial intelligence that it's being taught in classical conservatories. We started a partnership with Santa Cecilia, which is one of the oldest academies and conservatories in Europe, and then the Royal Conservatory in Brussels, the University Pompeu Fabra in Barcelona, and I'm very proud of this, and I'm very proud of these conservatory directors that wanted me to go there and teach it along cello, lyrical singing, and all these things, because it is, to me and to them, a new instrument. And instruments are fucking complex. Yeah. There's no safe way around instruments. Otherwise, you don't even approach it. So the way Amint is built, it's very complex. And it's a tool that it's made to bring you from very simple thoughts and emotion to an infinite of complexity. Right. That doesn't mean that it has to be complex to use. It's not very complex to use, but it's the concept that must be complex. Because life goes around the line between the pureness of simplicity and the beauty of complexity. That's where life is. Right. It can't be a straight line of simplicity. Otherwise, it becomes a flat line of nothing. Right. And it can't be a flat line of complexity. Otherwise, it becomes a fucking mess. Right, a blur. Right, a blur. That is really interesting, but it also makes me wonder then, I love what you're saying, but it also makes me wonder how it is, or how difficult it is to spin people up. First of all, if I just wanted to try and play with Amint, is there a way for me to even get it? Or
is it just like something that lives on your computer?
I can send it to you.
Okay. Um,
Yes. Now, technically, it used to be a standalone software,
okay.
very hardcore interface, and then we, for having a more practical use, I use Ableton Live in my performances.
Okay.
So we designed a VST3 plugin for Ableton.
Got
So
it.
now it works inside Ableton. So yeah, if you want to try it, I will send it.
This sounds amazing. Understanding how it actually interfaces with the gear I already have. Now that makes a bit of sense. But also then too, one of the real difficulties then is figuring out a way to mesh it with kind of the musical world that we inhabit, right? And one of the things that I found really fascinating was the fact that on your website, you have videos and stuff of performances that you did, not solo on stage working your augmented stuff, but actually working with other musicians, which to me, that blew my mind, because that's one of the things so often when people talk about machine learning or artificial intelligence based musical tools, it's sort of like, okay, you're in your mom's basement, let's help you make cool tracks. And all of a sudden I'm seeing you're using this thing in conjunction with other performers in a way that to me looks musicianly. If that's not a word, but it's musician full, right?
I'm loving what you're saying, because you got one of the other, to me, super key points of Amint. And the very first performance I did with Amint, it was not with me, but I was controlling Amint and orchestrating everything. But the player was Danilo Rea, which is one of the most amazing jazz improviser of the world. He used to play with Chet Baker. So we're talking about
serious chops.
A guy that has never rehearsed once in his life, and we couldn't even do sound check because he was saying, "No, everything works. Well, let's not do sound check because we will spoil the fun of the show." So that's to say that we never ever rehearsed. So we would jump on stage with all the crowd in front of us, not knowing what the fuck was going to happen, and he would start play, and I would start following him and orchestrating everything in real time, audio and visuals, and we would create these huge waves of performances that left the people completely mind blown. And then I start playing with Francesco Tristano, which is another super beautiful, amazing.
Those performances were gorgeous, yeah.
Player, and Niklas Paschburg as well. And so the very cool thing is that Amint can also be an instant link for acoustic and electronic music to go up on stage together with no preparation at all, not knowing nothing about grids, patterns, harmonies, nothing, like the old school jam sessions. Fuck, let's go and play, and whatever happens.
Right.
And this you can do with Amint. I do it with myself because I am the piano player, and I'm always also the orchestrator. But you can use it to create this bond, and to me, it's super beautiful to be able to fill the gap of acoustic and electronic in real time with a seamless flow like Amint. So it is really, I'm glad you pointed out, because it's another super important argument and statement for me.
Right. Well, unfortunately, we've used up more than our time, but before I let you go, I would like to know a little bit more about how where you're going with this, right? So you've already developed it enough so that you're able to take it on stage. You're performing with other people. You're performing in some pretty big shows, and on some pretty significant stages. What are the next developments that you're doing, and how are you refining the idea to make it even more important to you?
Well, there's different lines at the moment. I must say we as musicians all over the world, we are all very frustrated with what happened with COVID-19 because
Right.
I was supposed to start my world tour on South by
Oh
Southwest
no.
in Austin
Oh
on
no.
March 14, and we entered the lockdown here in Italy on March 9. So everything has kind of collapsed on our way to express, but we never give up. So on my side, we just launched a super amazing new, super exciting live streaming platform that is called Alive, which is a new concept that I developed with some friends in the Silicon Valley and my professors that implies AI and the real-time interaction with the audience. So I'm very excited about that at the moment because I played the first gig since March.
March, yeah.
3 days ago, and with the technology of Alive, I was actually surrounded by the real faces of my of the people that were watching the concert, and I was using these faces to create choreographies and video art. So it's, for me, that doesn't have anything to do with if you ask me where I'm going, and that's what the clever monkey says, okay, I can't play now, what the fuck do I
Yeah,
do?
what can I do to make myself pay, right? Yeah.
I must invent myself a platform that enables me to do that.
Well,
So and in terms of the develop of we spent quite a lot of time to build the plugin to make it suitable for Ableton, and now it works, and I'm very, very excited because it makes my workflow, especially in the live shows, much easier,
sure.
not implying a bridge between two standalone
Right.
softwares
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Yep.
We are working a lot into developing the visual, and as I was saying before, that's the hard part because it implies very powerful machines, a lot of expenses in terms of research and blah, blah, blah. So in terms of what I would like to implement in AIMint, it's the audio part, meaning that now AIMint works as a MIDI engine. So every brain is hooked to a VST or a virtual instrument.
Right.
And it would be, and in our development, which we already started, we are working also on the audio, and I would really be least but surprised that we would have some outstanding results also with the use of the voice.
Mm-hmm.
That is something that I would like to explore as well. But it will take a lot of time and resources and money. Unfortunately, if I don't have a lot of live performances, I don't have a lot of money to invest in research and development. Yeah, that's basically the things. And then to make it a tool usable to everybody, meaning that I would like to work on the interface a little bit and make it more suitable for other musicians to use it. With K7, we're working to extend the panel of collaborations, so to have more artists to dive deeper into this new system of making music, because for me it's a new system of making shows and music. So this is what I'm busy about, and also, of course, I'm very busy with the promotion of the record, and so, but it's all part of my big project. So everything goes in a very coherent and focused way towards the future.
Yeah, that coordination is actually pretty interesting, and it's great to see because, yeah, right now is kind of a neat time to talk with you because you do have the release. You've got this well-created website that can at least give us some insight on what your performances might be like. But this ongoing work that you're doing is pretty fabulous.
I have to update the website, I must say. So.
Well, I don't know. There's a lot of good stuff there already, but keep it going because it's going to be a really great touch point. Well, Alex, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to have this discussion. It was really great to dive deep into some of this nerdy talk, but also like very human talk too. I really do appreciate that.
I really loved it, and thank you for giving me the chance and possibility to do it. It was special. Thank you very much.
Yeah, awesome. Well, with that, I'm going to let you go. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye. Many thanks to Alex for the great chat. As you can tell, he is very excited about the work he's doing, and I think it's pretty exciting. For those of you who are patrons, you can jump over to patreon.com and take a peek at a little audio file that we put out there that kind of shows what happens when the system does its first 100 notes of learning. It's a really interesting demo of what's going on there. I want to thank everybody for continuing to share the podcast, getting it out there for other people, and for giving me the feedback that is so gratefully accepted. I want to thank you so much for that. One note, because my medical situation continues to give me fits, I'm going to be doing every other week of this podcast for a period. I don't know exactly how long that'll be, but my guess is probably through the end of the summer and possibly a little bit into the fall. So stick with me. It'll be half the pace, but hopefully it'll still be high quality. I've got some excellent interviews on board, and I'm really anxious to share those with you. Thank you so much for your continued support, and I look forward to the next time we get a chance to talk. Bye now.